Hello and welcome back to the Hutchinson Veteran Outreach Program. My name is Lisa Dettell, and today we're here with Tim Burley and catching up on what's going on around the town here. So how you doing?
Well, I made it more difficult for you because I'm not the American Legion commander anymore. So, I mean, you
No.
don't have a title. And,
Well, we do, it's just a little different.
well, and sometimes confusing because I work with multiple veteran outlets. And so, even with the American Legion, I still work with the DAV, I still work with Saluting Community Heroes, with the VA outreach. So there's a lot of things we're doing.
Exactly.
The American Legion was easy because it was right here in Hutchinson, and I'm still a really active part of it. I will move to the Veteran Service Officer role. So we're still doing our veteran outreach program and our care of our local veterans and communities. So it's been fun.
So you've been doing a whole lot of other stuff along with, not only with working with the Eagles Nest, you've been working with a lot of veterans that have been having, some issues with depression and things like this lately. I know 'tis the season also.
'Tis the difficult season.
Exactly.
And this is something we need to be aware of because this is going to play between now and Christmas, I can imagine,
Yep.
and New Year's even, is the Thanksgiving to right after the holidays is the largest problem area for us in the veterans community. Our calls double.
Exactly.
And right now, with the economy the way it is, our crisis calls financially are setting in, and that's leading to other crisis financially and then family-wise, and then we run into the ugly truth of veteran suicide, which increases and has been increasing. So that's something we have to deal with, and we're trying to look at, and as we were speaking earlier, instead of reacting, we're looking at how we're responding to those now.
Exactly. I know you've got a few things in the works with that.
Well, we've worked with developing, and we've been meeting with younger veterans and gathering as much data and intelligence as we can, because that's going to be the solution to this thing. And believe me, people ask me what's the solution to veteran suicide or teen suicide or anything like that. There's only one answer that I give them, and that's love. If we reach out to people, if we're caring about people, if we're taking care of our neighbor, if we're checking in on them, it's really hard to become that lonely, hopeless, and depressed.
Exactly.
To be able to put yourself into a suicidal ideation. It's surprising we talked about moms. A mother's phone call can change a person's life in seconds. So if moms, grandmothers, we always mention empathy and compassion. In the military, we're not really taught a whole lot of compassion nor empathy. So we have to relearn that. And in this case, we've put together some programs that we're developing right now with some emergency contact, GPS using technology, basically, and giving veterans a quick, easy reference point to be able to do either a buddy check with friends of theirs or to do a response check, which is how are you doing? And if you are in a bad place, responding and questioning and asking those things to get them to the next level.
Exactly.
So the technology we're developing, we're working with the VA and some outside people on that, which is an emergency response button. I always laugh. I tell people it's kind of like the I've fallen and I get back up. This is more of this button would have 3 phone numbers built into it of people they've predetermined that someone trusts. So it could be their mom, it could be myself, it could be you. And what the button does is when you push it, it sends a GPS signal, an emergency signal to those 3 people's cell phone at the same time. So like an Amber Alert situation with the I've fallen and I can't get up technology behind it. We're using cell phones right now. We can on the main screen build in those 3 contacts because we found out that when somebody is having the thoughts of suicide or suicidal ideology, they scroll through their contacts because they're looking for help and when you're looking and you're in that situation, you're seeing this person doesn't like me, this person won't care, this person, where that person could be the person you could reach out to.
Yep.
So we're saying these are the 3 you're guaranteed are going to step up and help you.
Exactly.
And so we're asking our younger veterans, if you know 3 people, get them on your cell phone. If you meet a younger veteran or even an older veteran, our Vietnam veterans are taking their lives, it's ugly. We've had in the last 2 weeks, last night 4 suicide attempts, and in the last 2 weeks we've had 9. with 2 successes. And that's in a 100-mile radius of here, of
Wow.
Hutchinson. So if we take that across the United States, we see that the number is much more higher than 22 a day. And that actually, University of Nebraska, I think, just came out with a study. They did an independent study, and they put the number closer to 36 to 40 a day, which is, at 22 is already an astronomical number. But when we get to that number, we need to start reacting and not and responding. We need to start responding.
Exactly. And just reaching out to people, just even people you haven't talked to in a while, to just get a hold of them and say, hey, listen, how are you doing? What are you doing this for Christmas?
We're
Because
doing the same
sometimes
thing with,
it's they're not having places to go. They're not having places to get together with other people.
well, I ask parents all the time because we worry about our teens and we worry about kids, which is right now suicide is the #1 teen killer in the state of Minnesota. And it's funny because you go to your kid, you see your kids after school, they disappear into a room, especially if they're in their teens, they play their games, they come up for dinner, disappear back. We never take the time to ask them, how are you doing?
Yep.
What can I do to help you? Where are you? If we took that 5 minutes every day and just asked them questions, and not the same question we always ask, how was school?
Yep.
Because how was school is the answer we get is good. Versus questioning, fact-finding, probing questions like, how are you feeling about school? Where do you think you are in it? That kind of thing where you're opening and you're at. Never ask a question of a teen where you need a yes or no answer unless it's all you need. If you can ask questions that they have to answer with more than 3 or 4 words, you're having a dialogue with them.
Exactly.
And it's probably more dialogue than most people have had with them in a long time.
Yep. And veterans right now, I know, like I said, we're going through that holiday thing. So it's actually a good time to actually reach out to other veterans and say, hey, Merry Christmas. How are you doing the holidays?
Well, and we've got groups that are, our VSO, Jim Lauer and Cassandra Kerrigan, a veteran from our region, donated a bunch of ground beef and things to them. And they went out and, they know the veterans who struggle a little bit. So they went out and, brought that to those veterans. And so we're looking, if we have veterans in crisis, if they're in that situation, if you know somebody in Hutchinson, a veteran who's struggling, reach out. What we do is we reach out to them. We're not trying to overburden them or anything like that. We just, how can we help you? And how we stop this craziness that we're experiencing is just by helping people.
Yep, exactly. Now, I know we had talked to the last time you were here about getting together veterans at particular hours on particular weekends.
Yes, and I know Diane Jankowski, the commander at the Legion now, is doing a coffee thing during the day.
Okay.
And I think, I'm not going to guess the date of that, but it's out there. I think it's the 3rd Thursday of the month. It's the day we had that snowstorm about 2 weeks ago, because the first time she ever did it, it was a snowstorm.
Oh, no.
And she canceled it, but she's planning on going forward with that, so that's one. We're also looking at some outlets here in town. We were going to do it at the Legion office. We're looking at size considerations, but Friday and Saturday nights, kind of during those, we call them the lonely hours, of putting in some video gaming and popcorn and things like that, just so if somebody feels alone, they can come be together. I know I'm working with the American Legion State Commander, Department Commander Jennifer Havlick. We're looking at in Hutchinson in January, February, having some of the leading experts come in on military sexual trauma, PTSD, veteran transition, and alcohol addiction. And what we're finding is those are the 4 major lanes that veterans are finding themselves in, and they cross.
Yep.
So a transition issue like lack of finding a job can lead to triggering a PTSD or an MST, military sexual trauma. Those are people who have been raped or physically, sexually abused.
Exactly.
And we're finding, and forgive me, that's both men and women.
Yep.
And we're finding that's becoming an issue. And those are the 4 lanes that are leading us to that exit of suicide. Okay. And what we're trying to do is put in the sky above that, those 4 lanes, the other sign that says hope, this direction. And we're missing something because we have experts in each of those fields, but they don't cross each other's lanes.
Okay.
And so we want to bring them into a room, actually with survivors of military sexual trauma, with suicide survivors, and have a very frank roundtable discussion about what are we missing. And part of the missing is, and we've learned this, is we spend billions on awareness, and we spend next to nothing on the response to it.
Exactly.
And we're having issues because we have, to respond to a suicide, you need fuel, you need vehicles, you need people, you need protection, because it's never safe to go.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, but I have to say that there are protocols in place, because people who are thinking about suicide aren't making all the rational decisions, and sometimes they'll try to scare you away.
Yep.
I make a joke about somebody who shot at me, and I joke about they were Air Force. It wasn't an intent. It was the I don't want you here because I need to die, and nobody cares about me, and you're standing here, which proving me wrong, and now I'm angry by that.
Yep.
So we have to be prepared, and so we're working with a lot of hospitals, anybody who will listen and say, listen, we can fix this. We just need to think outside the proverbial box of, suicide happens and it just happens, and we tell people and then they don't do it. That's not how it works.
And it's not always just for one particular reason. There's usually a few things going on.
I take pretty copious notes from every response or call I take, and people tell me, well, there are some indicators, but there's no two that are ever the same.
Yep.
No two that are ever the same. And you can tell me that all day, but even when you go back to talk to the survivors, it's been a difficult summer. I think the last time we probably talked was the spring. I mean, we had a lot of things going on this summer. We had Saluda Community Heroes in November, where we had Mark Nooch here. That was a great event. I think I'm going to put this out, and Chad might be able. We're probably close to $250,000 this year. That's going to go to veteran not-for-profits in our region, Minnesota, and even across the United States, for organizations or groups that are doing immediate boots on the ground.
Yep.
This isn't for government agencies or anything like that. This money all goes to, like, the Eagles Healing Nest, the St. Cloud Stand Down, which is doing wonderful things, the Magnus Veterans Foundation, which is helping veterans with medical issues. I mean, there are great organizations out here that do the work, and they're doing it for next to nothing. So what we're built that up is to support them, because quite frankly, when you work in this, you don't have time to be out fundraising.
Yep.
And the Eagles Healing Nest, I know last night the Nest they had 2 strike teams out, till 1, 2 in the morning, just going out to pick up veterans who are in crisis. And you sit on the phone, it becomes an issue, and it's all about funding mechanisms to get them to where they can get there.
Exactly. So you've also got a few other things going on. I hear the Legion's got the Christmas party.
I think that's December 16th. We have it every year since, I think, 1989 or 86. I always get it mixed up. They started the children's Christmas party for the special needs Christmas, our kids in Hutchinson.
Yeah.
And every year we have about 60 kids come in, and they're paras and they're counselors and teachers, and we serve them all lunch, and they have Santa there, and we get them all a gift. The teachers are wonderful because they go out and work with our local Target on picking the gifts for the kids.
Nice.
So, I mean, if we had veterans going and picking gifts for kids,
You never know what they'd end up with.
yeah, so we trust the teachers with that, because we tend to walk through and go, hey, this is cool, they'll like this. And but joking aside, it's a fun event. It's actually one of the most favorite events for the veterans, I think, in the Legion. And the VFW used to be part of it and has joined back into it. So it's been great. We've been working on, oh my goodness, all kinds of things here. The new sign at Legion Park along the main highway, we've been discussing that has to be replaced because the windstorm took it out.
Oh, no.
And that's fine. It said Legion Park on it, and that's a major gateway into our community. Everybody sees that corner when they're coming through.
Yep.
And so we want to make it a little bit more Hutchinson motivated, and maybe a little bit, the Legion would be the park, but, make it more Hutch branding.
Okay.
And oh my goodness, all kinds of things. The 40 and 8 just had their nursing scholarships they awarded the other night. The DAV is still doing what the DAV does. I mean, they're helping out citizens and our veterans here in this community with getting, the medical equipment that they need. In fact, Saluda Community Heroes, the This year we had a veteran on Veterans Day reached out and needed a lift chair.
Okay.
And we couldn't, the DAV didn't have lift chairs. They're not inexpensive.
Yep.
And we had a local furniture person help us out.
Nice.
And the veteran now has a lift chair that was medically prescribed. And we're just taking care of our brothers and sisters as they need it. So the American Legion has funds available now through what they call an MVAF grant.
Okay.
So Veterans in Crisis, the state has that $5,000 fund. Now the American Legion has a fund like that, and other organizations are talking about direct, and it's like a 3-4 day turnaround. We're not talking, the 6-month, 8-month wait. This is, let's take care of your problem now because we're
Very
finding.
nice. A lot of people can't wait that long.
No, I mean, if you're getting kicked out of your home or your apartment or whatever, the mortgage people or the leasers aren't saying, well, we'll give you 6 months while the government decides or why we decide,
Exactly.
if you're going to get money to help them. Right now, the crux of it, and even the MACV has changed their policy. They've given the VSOs in the counties a little bit more latitude to do deals with hotels and things like that so we can get veterans at least
Nice.
warm, sheltered, and cared for and fed up to the point where we have to start working on the other problems.
Yep.
So
It always works best when we all work together.
it does, and we've got the Eagles Healing Nest. It's still doing the same. We're 5 to 7 intakes a week. We've got guys leaving, coming. People have been hugely supportive of it, and it is doing. There's another one that's opening up, kind of an exact model down in Indiana now.
Nice.
Another one in Chicago or in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
So we're seeing. I mean, when you're seeing the recidivism rate of alcoholics, 5% recidivation versus, 10,
Yeah.
we see it. So when things are being successful, we need to implement the successful.
Exactly.
So any veteran who's in a crisis situation can reach out to our Legion here. They can reach out to the DAV here. We have enough resources in Hutchinson. We've worked on this city quite extensively. The VBOC, the Veteran Business Opportunity Center, we discussed a while ago, is actually getting more firm. They had some issues with employees and who was where. Now Ray Milano, who's the head of the SBA, has basically said Hutchinson will have their own person for the state of Minnesota, which
Nice.
is great. So we're moving, and every day is a different effort, a different event, but it all blends together, and it's all about just taking care and making sure not only the veterans okay, but their families.
Exactly.
Because we're finding veterans with trauma, their family also carries the same trauma.
Yep.
And so their kids, the spouses, and I have to say spouses now because we have female and males.
Yep.
And we have more females now entering the military, and we're seeing a lot of female leaders stepping up. So this is great. We're learning new things, and that's what's fun about it. And we learn from each other all the time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And that's great when we can share that dialogue and different views, different jobs we had in the service, different locations, and you're able to gather data and work for the betterment of our veterans community.
Exactly.
So
Now I also hear you have, I don't know if you wanted to talk about this or not, about the little houses.
I talked about this because we're looking. I like to look outside the box, and we're working with some donors/investors on a veterans elderly home in this area, and I won't go too far into detail on that because it's not at the infant stages. It's moving, but I am one of those guys. Let's try it, and if it doesn't work, we'll move on. But right now, I've got a lot of hope for it, and we've got the right people in place. But we talked about with the city and community. I've been working with some other states and other veterans and locations that have done little houses,
Okay.
and they're proving to be very successful. Not only with the veteran community, but with like single mother community or the college graduate who can't afford a home. And what it's doing is keeping their younger people, now that they have an affordable place to live and they have something they can call their own and have the respect for it. And there's also training advantages there too.
Exactly.
It's a win-win. And we're seeing somebody said, well, what about the crime? Like the veteran who runs this little house community said, is they protect each other there is no crime here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's all people that are and it's bringing 25, 26, 27-year-olds into one area, and they're learning all together, budgeting. And I said, one of the people he was telling me about, they have a single mom who lives in a house and a single mom who lives in the other house. Both have kids. One works nights, one works days. They took care of the daycare problem.
Yep,
They watch each other,
Exactly.
each other's kids. So we're not only creating that, we're creating a different type of community.
Well, and they also have skin in the game.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not getting these homes for free.
No,
So they
what it's
they
doing
have
is
a little-
making responsible, affordable home ownership, which is great.
Yep.
It's giving an opportunity to have something that,
Exactly.
but it's also showing them their responsibility, because the central hub to these little communities is kind of the central building, which is also their storm, where they go for storms.
Yep.
But it's also a training facility. So they're teaching life skills there. They're teaching budgeting, check writing. I know he said they had some cooking. But we think about that and we go, well, you mean you could throw a pizza in the oven? Some people can't boil water. I mean, let's just put it that way.
That's
So
just true.
we have to assume simple. Mm-hmm. But anytime we can add life skills to somebody's repertoire,
Oh, exactly.
we're adding skills that they need to survive, and they can be more creative. And so we look at this and go, why couldn't we have it here? And how do we keep younger generation in Hutchinson?
Exactly. And it not only helps the younger people, it helps the veterans.
Yes.
I mean, I've taken a look at some of the prices going up in the market for houses and things. You're kind of getting a little bit expensive there.
Well, and people talk about wages, and they say, well, we could increase wages. It's very hard to compete with a Twin Cities wage. I mean, let's just be honest. When you're making 3 times what you would make in Hutchinson, we can't go to a Hutchinson business and say, will you pay this person $200,000 a year to do what somebody's already doing for $40,000 a year.
Exactly.
And it's your living costs.
Yep.
But at $40,000 a year in Hutchinson, and you're paying a $300 mortgage instead of a $2,000 mortgage.
It's doable.
Yeah, and one of my wife's friends just said, she's paying $2,400 for a studio apartment.
Wow.
Okay, it's more than my mortgage.
Wow.
So I look at the opportunity and say, well, you can afford $2,400. Now we make it affordable for you, so you can go on vacations. You can have, and you can grow and save money, because if you're living in Hutchinson and you have an affinity, you volunteer and all that, and you have a little home, when you're ready to move on and move into your next investment,
Yep.
where are you more than likely going to invest that?
Exactly.
So
They're nice little homes.
actually, some of them I've been in some of them. It's where I'm going when
Yeah, no, I thought about the same
so
thing.
my kids always said, "We'll put you in a nursing home." I'm like, "Oh no, I'll find
Just
a place
put me
to
in a
go."
little home.
I can go in a little home, but they're really nice. They're utilitarian. They have all the amenities, and if you're not looking at jogging and lapping and mopping 40 floors, it's pretty easy maintenance.
Exactly. Especially when you get up there in age, you don't want to do that whole thing.
Exactly. So we look at it and go,
You look
are
at
these
dusting
solutions?
and go, I don't want to.
And we have veterans in Hutchinson who we have to go shovel their driveway because they're unable to, but they can't leave their house because they have nowhere to go.
Yep.
So they can go to a nursing home, which is, and God bless nursing homes, but that's not the place they want to be. And I have to respect that. So we go down and kids aren't in a place to take their parents into their home like they used to.
Yep.
I mean, if it's financially devastating to be alone, how are you going to bring in another person who isn't bringing an income in?
Yep.
So you have all those problems, but you work through them and come up with solutions.
Exactly.
And we can do that. We mentioned we're not going to bring up a whole lot of my ending up on the Hutch City Council. I mean, that was a wonderful idea during, let's run for an office in the middle of the busiest time of our year.
Yep.
But there's a method to that madness of, one, we've done a lot of things with growing this community and bringing investment into this community. Why not do it at a community level and teach and learn more? And if it's working, make it work better. And people ask why you do it. And I tell them it's just so much better to go to bed at night saying, you know what, today was better than yesterday. And if you can say that every day,
Exactly.
it goes to the old, be the best you can be and make it a great day.
Exactly.
And when we do that, it's a lot simpler. Well, yeah, if people want to reach out, they can. I mean, they can call, and my number is all over the place if they have questions or if they want to help. And, I'm asking our veterans in the community, step up, help out.
Exactly.
We're seeing great things from our veterans who are saying, it's time we support our brothers and sisters who are going through some of these trying times. And we're seeing, the community wrap their arms around them. And it's not only our veterans we need to worry about, it's just our citizens, period.
Oh, exactly.
And, if you see a young person and they're doing a wonderful thing, tell them they're doing a wonderful thing. It's not such a bad thing. Let's start turning these angry looks on people's faces into smiles.
Exactly.
That's the love we were talking about at the beginning. Thanks again.
Thank you.